992 Carreras, two of them, but they are totally different experience. Today I'm going to jump back and forth between these cars. They have a totally different experience. This is my car, jet black metallic with red caliper, Sportex interior and PDK gearbox. This is Porsche's car. Paint to sample, bruised the green, black calipers, Porsche exclusive manufacturer interior and manual gearbox. Both cars are running the same tires, Michelin Pilot Alpine 5, but this car has 305 in the rear, where mine has 295. This vehicle is fully loaded with Porsche options. And before we focus on manual versus PDK gearbox, I would like to highlight some of the options on this vehicle. Lightweight and noise insulated glass, a must-have option for me these days. I will not spec any 992 without it from this day. Well, it needs to be available, of course. It takes away all that wind noise from the cabin and all that noise from the wheels that you don't appreciate. It does not connect to driving. In addition, it also helps the sound composers in the cabin to bring that beautiful flat 6 noise into the cabin. A must-have option. Porsche Dynamic Light System Plus with LED matrix. Sometimes it takes to experience an option before you dare to click it. I had PDLS Plus on my previous 991.2 and on my current Spider, but the first generation could not be compared with the new one. Let's take a closer look. I'm driving on the highway in terrible conditions. Fog, snowing and winter roads. The speed is between 100 and 110 kilometers an hour. Perfect for my demonstration. Look how you can follow the behavior of the lights, especially from the left headlamp. See how the light paint a kind of a dark shadow over the vehicle in front of me. It works exceptionally well, and it helps me a lot driving in the dark, because I get a lot of ambient lights around the traffic. But you lose one thing when you option up this. Have a good look at my lights, which is stock. They feel like just a 100% copy from the 918 Spider. Before I rush away to drive this vehicle, I have a few things I would like to address. Look how beautiful it is with a proper gear lever in this vehicle. I cannot still get used to the racer lookalike PDK gear lever on my car. But there is a huge problem with it. Let's say you drive with water, but please let me first tighten this cap so I don't destroy this beautiful Porsche exclusive manufacturer 18,000 euro interior. Because what's going to happen is when you have a bottle, or even worse, coffee, and then you drive and then you want to change gear, oops, it has happened to me already. So I'm going to do Porsche a big favor to preserve this beautiful interior. I'm going to remove the cup holder, I'm going to throw it away like this, and I'm going to replace it with a non-cup holder. Whew. This is how it should be. Again, remember the 991.2 and 991 where we have this foldable cup holder? Porsche, just think twice about removing them. What a slippery road we're having today. I'm telling you, it's really slippy. Have a look here, just when I provoke the car a bit. So don't expect me to go very fast this time. But changing gear is such a beautiful thing. And it's a huge improvement from the 991.2. The gearbox is not as it's not like the 991.2, Carrera T included. This is it's tighter between the gearing. It is still extremely smooth to change the gears, and finding them are even easier, if that is possible to say at least. But again, I think everybody has told that I'm not able to put in the 7th gear immediately. I have to put 5, 6, and then off we go to the 7th gear. It is not as metallic and such engaging, and you have to put a bit more pressure into the gear changes in a GT3 Spider. But apart from that, I think they've done a magic job, because the difference, and this is extremely important, this gearbox is now possible to have a daily drive with, because it's such a beautiful, it's so easy to change the gears, it's easy to find them. Do not hesitate to select a manual gearbox for daily driving. Well, the only effect, right, by having a PDK is that you have one hand over for, I don't know, drinking, which you cannot put anywhere. So yeah, this is the cup holder. I didn't think about it. Here we go again. Well, this is how it is in Sweden these days, but I don't understand how, driving a manual gearbox and holding a bottle could actually be of any use. Then obviously you cannot change gear. So basically this is the biggest perk with the PDK gearbox, is that you can hold your drink it while the car is shifting itself, and actually use the cup holder for what it's meant to be. On a manual, well, it's a different way. Again, switching to wet mode on the PDK gearbox as well, because I actually think during this winter condition is the best option. I cannot say that I would drive on anything else when it is snow, ice, heavy winter condition. That's when wet mode works perfectly. But what's very important is that if you drive a manual gearbox, especially with so much horsepower as the Carrera S, you might end up changing gear, lifting the clutch up and spin, because you get so much torque into the wheels that it will, well, the effect will be like pulling the handbrake, right? So therefore, when you enter the wet mode, you will have the rev matching, and this, I salute that, because that gives you the pleasure to drive this beautiful road even on winter condition. But it is so winter condition, ladies and gentlemen. Now it is in Sweden. Beautiful. You know where the Swedish rally is, right? It's in Sweden, because we have snow. Beautiful. And in the snow, it is the fastest rally of them all. Let's compare the different speeds between the manual gearbox and the PDK. Max rev in first and second gear, the manual is 3 km slower than the 718 GT4, which is not long. Use the first gear in B-road drive. Then I set the cruise control to 70 km an hour or 44 miles per hour from second gear, working my way up to top gear. When the PDK shifts to the 8th overdrive gear, the car runs just under 1000 RPM. I feel a bit sad, because US was normally, when I was a teenager, I talked about United States and say, well, they have no clue about driving, because everything was automatic, right? But these days it's the opposite. The Americans catched up and passed us. They buy more manual cars, they know more about driving, and suddenly Sweden is the guys that have no clue on how to drive. We just buy PDK gearbox. Ridiculous. And by the way, I'm just headed out for the B roads. Braking, sorry, it's very, very slow braking, but I really love this. You should take your sports car on slippery road and try to work with it. It is, I tell you this one, wet mode on, because you need that extra help in corners, etc. And just enjoy, but be careful. Coming back to the PDK, and I have found out that the best throttle range that I think during the B-road with this monster of an engine is about 4,100 and upwards. I normally shift at 5,700 and then work through all the 8 gears that I have. I think that is for me a sweet spot on the B-roads that I have present. If I go to even tighter B-roads, I actually drop down 1,000 revs. And this is what I think is very important for you to get connection with the PDK gearbox, is to find your own orchestra where you and your car connect, and where you feel it is very convenient to shift gears when you drive on B roads. A lot of people are talking about the turbo lag, right? But I am having more difficulty with another lag in the modern 911s. So let me talk you through. So when you push the throttle, yes, obviously there is such a minimal turbo lag that I cannot bother it, right? But if I'm driving normal like now and suddenly a beautiful B road occurs and I want to hit it, right? I'll throw in the second gear and I just drive away, come to third and then fourth and just move on. Sorry, just wheel spin because it's winter. And the problem I'm having with the PDK is that I lose connection in the shift between normal driving and active driving, and that is very important that you don't feel at all with the manual gearbox, because if you drive in the PDK, well, you know what you need to do. Push the drive mode, sport response, and bang, I just have a lot of slippery in. Well, I have to close that because as you see I'm getting off-road here. Well, that's what's happening when you put on sport response on these heavy conditions. You just go sideways. But what happened is that I just lose connection. It's a millisecond, perhaps at most 1 second, but that's enough for me. On the manual, it's all about me getting all the mechanics, all the 10,000 plus pieces in this vehicle into a sporty mode, not a push of a button. And during that switch, well, I lose connection with the PDK gearbox. Well, that's the ugly truth, isn't it? That's why that's where I have difficulties to connect. Well, I do connect, but not in such a way as I do with this perfect balanced manual. I'm sorry, I'm biased here. I prefer the manual. Oh, it feels so cozy in this exclusive manufacturer interior. It's like in a Chesterfield seat. I'm not sure if it is my style, but it's a true tribute to the early 911s. I think I needed a driving break. I get too excited when I drive and I need to calm down a bit. The GT3 and Spider gearbox are definitely more distinct. It's it takes more muscles to change the gears, but they are not more distinct than in the 992. It is softer perhaps, and I cannot say that I get more connected in my Spider versus the 992. That's an observation that I've made. Am I faster? Not sure. Does it feel more racy to put some muscles into the change? Need to think about that. But this is a much easier gearbox to handle. You find the gears much easier in comparison to a GT3 Spider. Is it a beginner's gearbox? Not sure. But don't hesitate to tick the manual. PDK. Well, I definitely feel a PDK lag driving, and it's not about speed, it's about losing connection, driving and then suddenly decide to move just a little bit more active, giving that throttle, and I have to change drive mode on the Carrera S PDK in normal mode, whereas in the manual I just shift down and having that connection from my decision to action point. That's very important. But the PDK makes my driving much more calmer. I drive slower with the PDK gearbox in normal traffic than I do with the manual, because I'm getting too excited in the manual and I perhaps give a little bit too much throttle. One thing I need again to address is the lightweight glass and sound insulating. Remember what I've always said, never, never, never option out your 911 or any sport car from Porsche with Bose or Burmeister sound system, because it's a waste of money. But the difference with this glass or windows It's huge. It's not a small thing, it's a mega thing. It really erases the unnecessary sounds and it brings the Bose system to life. I definitely, the problem is when I have driven this car with these windows and then listen to the music, jumping into my car, I kind of make a PCM delete in my head. It's a huge difference. If you are into music, you would like to have a Bose stereo Burmeister, make sure you tick VW4 option. Let's get back to those steering wheels, shall we? Let me show you the slippery conditions that I'm currently in. Look at the winter beautiful roads. Bicycles are still running in Sweden. That's how we are performing our lives. But it is truly, truly slippery today, which means that you have to trust me when I say that a couple of days ago I was on better condition driving on B roads, and obviously, as expected, it is a blast to drive a manual gearbox on B roads. No questions about it. All cars are struggling because it is such a demanding surface to be driving on. But the 911 performs all day long. What you should take under consideration is obviously, and this is very important, the winter tires you're using. Now I have European winter tires. I'm a bit surprised of the performance of those, the Pilot Alpine 5, but the Nordic Winter X-Ice North, ooh, they are spectacular. Oh, now we have some issues here. We have to pass. Oops. Well, there is someone that has gone a bit too fast. As I said, all cars are struggling, full throttled at this point. You know, this is what you get in Sweden certain times. So the problem is actually not to have a connection to the road. The problem is, what I'm about to see you, braking. It takes 100 years to brake under this surface, even though I must say, this is European winter tires, and it's a bit annoying because they are actually really good on snow as well. But what if this car was equipped with Nordic winter tires? That's a totally different story. That's like dry asphalt during this, well, not dry asphalt, but it's extreme good. If you haven't not driven Nordic winter tires ever, please find your winter roads, try it out. You will think that you are, equipped your car with rally tires. Actually, it would be quite interesting to see a performance test between old rally tires from, let's say, 5-10 years ago comparison to the Nordic winter tires. I actually think they will match each other. Yeah, definitely. Let's see if we can get out of here. Again, braking is so difficult, and here we have another. Let's try to. Ooh. Not a good idea to rev to 6,000 RPM on these conditions, but I did it anyway, just for you guys. Ooh. I've never been so focused trying to get things on tape. It is so difficult. Sorry for speaking so slow, because driving in this condition you have to be alert, and I have to say something into 2 cameras in the same time. So bear with me. If you think this is a slow video, well, go to 1.25 speed and you can actually experience how fast you can talk. But bear with me, it's not an easy task. Do it yourself. Pick up 2 cameras, make sure they synchronize, make sure that you talk to the right camera, and drive in a snowstorm. You do that and then come back to me and say, yeah, you need to pick it up, Janko.
I'm not sure if it is out of ignorance or just lack of taste, but look at the 992 GT3. If you pay €500 for the Sport Chrono, you get, well, a watch and the possibility to buy a lap timer. Still, 99% buy the Sport Chrono to their GT3. In Sweden, it feels like this is the case with the manual gearbox. The manual is not considered due to the lack of knowledge to drive the car, or out of ignorance trembling to make the car difficult to sell.
No. Pretty Caroline, oh, 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 oh. Stone cold stunner. She was a winner, started working at the diner. Serves as a reminder to count your blessings, cause it's telling fair. They'll put you down and leave you there, don't make them scared. It is the ugly truth.
So let me talk you through something that bugs me a bit when it comes to the PDK gearbox, and it is that I always need to be on the right setup. Because am I driving now at 50 kilometers an hour? I feel the thrust on my right foot. I just want to give it a little bit extra, and I push it a little bit too fast, and bang, it's very quick, but it will shift down a couple of gears. Instead, you have to be on manual mode, and you have the 2,500 RPM. You still feel the throttle, and you push it, and it will keep on the same gear. Which means that you always have to be focused driving the PDK gearbox, which type of settings you have on the wheel, which driving mode you have, what is the PDK on manual mode. Well, that's much easier with the manual. It's you that control all the 10,000 bits of pieces of the vehicle with your clutch and your gear lever, making that perfect connection. I haven't driven the manual on a racetrack as I have done with the PDK, but you will definitely on a racetrack be better off with the PDK gearbox, since these cars are a monster of power to drive, and you will have, well, your hands full with driving on a racetrack. But except that, I cannot find any other situation where you will be better off with a PDK versus a manual. Manual gearbox is definitely an option I recommend everybody. I mean, it's simple to drive these days. You have the rev matching, you have the automatic braking when you're parked in slopes. I don't see any reason why you should have the PDK lag in your 911. I think that the performance of the manual, which is slower, I'm not going to argue in that, much slower in fact, but it doesn't matter. These two cars, the Carrera S, has so much power that, well, you can get rid of some and still have a pleasure of driving. If I would go for a daily driver, I will still select the manual. And yes, I definitely would like to change gearbox in my vehicle.